Hello there and welcome to the Bitcoin Takeover podcast. This is season 16, episode 57. We are live with the CEO and CTO of Trezor, Matej Zak and Tomáš Sušánka. Sušánka, I think, if I pronounce that correctly. And a couple of weeks ago, they put me on the spot. They surprised me by inviting me to Prague to witness their product launch, which is the Trezor Safe 7, which is the first one to include the Tropic Square chip, which I've been writing about for like 5 years. And I was excited for this to finally happen. And they put me on the spot, which means today I'm going to put them on the spot also. I have the Trezor Safe 7 here, still in the box, still sealed. We're going to do a live unboxing and testing. So everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, so what I have here is what you basically gave us all. It was funny because there were some haters from the seed signer guy and who else was there? The Blockstream guys, the Jade ones, they were not happy that this was happening and they tried to take some memes and appropriate them and whatever and say, oh, influencers got paid. By the way, did you guys pay anyone? Because I didn't get paid.
No, as far as I know, we didn't. We just covered some of the costs, obviously, and treated you nicely. So that was the idea there.
Yeah, you guys basically flew everyone to Prague and put us in the same hotel next to the venue, and that was the extent of it. And there were video games and snacks and karaoke, and it was nice. Thank you for that. Anyway, Trezor Safe 7. It's still sealed. I think part of the security of a hardware wallet is also in the packaging and the way in which you make sure that it was not tampered. And I do remember at one point, it was in 2018 or something. And once again, I'm old, okay? I've been doing this for almost 7 years. When I think about the CEO and CTO of Trezor, no offense there, but I remember Slush and Stick. And I remember they were surprised in 2018 or something. There was this hackers event where they basically proved how they can tamper with a sealed Trezor Model T, which had like a sticker covering the USB-C port. And they were using a blow dryer to basically remove the glue without actually removing any traces. It was interesting to show how they can do this man-in-the-middle attack on these devices. And I think after that event, Trezor has actually learned a lot and improved the product. And part of the unboxing process is actually going to follow this exact criterion. Like, how difficult is it to actually maybe replace the plastic or the box or whatever, like tamper-proof elements that you find here. So while I open this up, can you tell me more about the Trezor Safe 7?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it is our flagship product. It is the best hardware wallet that we have ever built. It's built on years of experience, honestly, with everything, including security, obviously, and usability. The foil that you are now ripping off actually has Trezor written all over it, if you can see. So that's one of the...
Yes, it does. I don't think it's visible, but there's something
Exactly.
here.
Yeah, that's why I'm mentioning it. So it's just one of the little things that would make it harder for anybody trying to counterfeit the product. And I'm not saying, of course, like this is the only solution. Obviously, you're a tech company, right? So I'm just saying these are all the little tiny details that we try to put on the product to make it better and harder for anybody to mess around with it. And yeah, so it features a couple amazing things. Firstly, the first ever auditable secure element, and maybe later Sushi can talk about what that is and what it does. It has large, bright display, so it's a touch display. It has a lot of colors. I think millions of them. So it's a solid display. As you will see in a moment, the device is fairly, I would say, like heavy, which sounds maybe weird, but what I mean is it feels like a high-end consumer electronic product, right? So it's not just a little plasticky toy. It feels like proper a high-end premium product. And it also features some quantum protections, which again, maybe Sushi is better equipped to talk about those, to just explain what it does and what it doesn't do, because it's quite important. Because there was some chatter on Twitter that it's kind of exaggerating, but it actually doesn't. It just, you need to understand what we mean by that. And maybe most obviously, it has Bluetooth, meaning you can connect it to your phones, your tablets, your desktop computers without the need of cable. But if you want, you can still use cable, and you can actually turn off the Bluetooth completely. So that would be the main spec. And then we can talk details once you unbox it.
On the box here, it says that it's quantum ready. It actually has this shiny label here. So I'm gonna let Tomáš explain what that's about. It also says that it has wireless connectivity, 2.5-inch vibrant color screen, advanced secure element. It doesn't say open source or auditable, it says advanced. And also it says it's made in Czechia, Czech Republic, which is amazing. It's not some Chinese product. It's actually made in your home country.
Yeah. This was, by the way, one of the conditions that we had to be able manufacture at some place that is close to us, so we can keep it under. So we can keep an eye on it, basically. Maybe just regarding back to the packaging very quickly. So, I mean, of course, again, there was some discussion on that. Like, the packaging is not bulletproof, right? It's small pieces, it's layers that make the security all together, right? So it's not like that a branded foil would, make the device secure against supply chains completely, but it's one of those 10 steps that the attacker needs to do. And if you're making it more and more difficult to them, right? So obviously it's not just the foil, it's also the packaging, it's the hologram sticker, but then at the end of the day, it's mainly the secure elements that prove the authenticity of the device, and we have two in this Trezor Safe 7. Back to the question, quantum ready. Yeah, so basically the quantum discussion is kind of heating up. Like, few years back, it was really this kind of sci-fi, something that no one actually understands or feels that is a threat. But I do think that it changed to some degree. Just to calm everyone down, it's not something that would be, there is not a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, a quantum computer strong enough that would be just around the corner. There's no such thing. It's not going to be next year, and it's probably not going to be in 2 or 3 years either. But I think it could be in 10 or 20 years, right? Or we don't really know, because this is a very new field, but you can see how the discussion and how the advancements are made, actually. So that's one thing. The other thing is that, of course, we cannot make a quantum safe or quantum proof hardware wallet, because Bitcoin or whatever else is not actually ready for the quantum security, right? Like, we do not have post-quantum signatures in Bitcoin, and then it doesn't really make sense to make a quantum secure hardware wallet, because the attackers would attack the blockchain itself instead of the hardware wallet, right? So that doesn't really make sense. But we've been thinking, okay, so what is it that we can do already as of now? What we can do to get ready for the transition? And that's basically what we did with Trezor Safe 7, where we actually have these post-quantum signatures in the bootloader update, meaning when you update a bootloader, which is a tiny code running on the device, we can actually send that update to your device again in a quantum safe manner, which means resistant to quantum computers. And then the second thing is that we can also prove the authenticity of the device using post-quantum signature. Again, if someone would have a quantum computer, which people do not as of now, but we're just trying to get ready for the future, they could, circumvent these. So it's really something that's kind of ready for the future. Maybe just I hope I'm not speaking too fast and everyone can grasp this, but I also wanted to add one more thing. And as Matej mentioned, there was some chatter around the quantum ready claim, because like we understand it's a shortcut, and that's why we're here trying to explain it more and more. But like some even call it a gimmick, and that kind of I would be glad to comment on that, because like it's not a gimmick, because the industry, and I don't mean the Bitcoin industry, I mean like the overall industry is really starting to work on this, right? Like Cloudflare, the CDN provider or the network company, is actually just recently announced that they are post-quantum encrypting the internet traffic for more than 0.5% of their website, right? So more than 50% is already post-quantum secure. Apple has their iMessages with post-quantum signatures since of last year or 2 years ago, right? I could go on, but what I'm just trying to say that this is really where the industry is moving, and we just at Trezor are keeping up. And I think it's great that also in Bitcoin we're starting to have this discussion, because it's an important one.
Well, it's maybe where the security industry is moving, but not the Bitcoin hardware wallet industry, which I think you guys are the first ones to have this feature. Anyway,
exactly, and
there's the Tamper security seal, Tamper-proof or whatever. So once you remove this, I just want to move on with the unboxing to get to the actual product. Once you remove this, it's actually hard to put it back on. It has these, what do you call them? These rippable elements. And now once you open this, it says, great choice, your crypto, your control. Open it up. I just want to see how many steps I'm away from actually accessing the device. This is also a seal that you have to remove. So this is the third physical security element to make sure that this is not tampered with. And I think that, oh, there's a fourth one here. Once you get the device, there's another sticker at the USB-C port level, but I think also your hardware wallets come without a firmware, right? Once you connect it to Trezor Suite, that's when you actually have maybe the first instance of putting any kind of software on this, and that's also when you find out if the device had been used before. So at the software level, you're able to mitigate what maybe counterfeiters might be able to do with carton and plastic and every other layer of tamper-proof security. Am I wrong here,
yes,
or did you change this?
No, yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly how it works. So we only equip the device with the so-called bootloader, which is the tiny code, that runs the rest. But then the firmware is installed during the onboarding. So yeah, you were correct.
Anyway, I've got to say that this feels really great. I have my Trezor Model T around, and it's very plasticky. And I love the Trezor Model T, but this one feels more premium when you touch it. It has more of an actual flagship phone kind of feel, and it's also larger in size. And once you remove this sticker, which once again brags that this is made in the Czech Republic, you have the device. So there are 4 layers of physical security to make sure that this is not tampered with. It was important for me to count them and explain to people what they should expect when they buy this and make sure that it's original. I'm gonna turn it on. There's the claim that this works without cables. And my question for you is, what is the best way to use it on an iPhone?
You can actually continue with whatever the device tells you and that you can see on the screen. So you can download the app and then you can do the whole onboarding with your iPhone, if that's what you're using.
Well, I specifically asked the iPhone because I know that Trezor was not working on an iPhone, and there are a lot of app scams in the app stores, apps pretending to be Trezor so that they can phish people's seed phrases. And now it actually works on the iPhone, so it's important to mention this.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe just a bit of a data behind this, US is our biggest market, right? So we couldn't not have really serve the users using iPhones because, well, Apple doesn't allow you to connect these kind of devices through cable, through their, USB-C. You would actually need to get into some kind of partnership with Apple. It's called MFI. It's like a program that you would have to sign all kind of papers and give them some royalties on your sales, do a bunch of NDAs, and all these kind of things.
Nowadays, you can actually choose to get paid in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or whatever it is that you like, just by going to Sideshift.ai. You put your Bitcoin address in there, you choose the USDT or USDC to BTC pair, then you click the shift button, and all you have to do is send the stablecoin address to the person wanting to pay you in stablecoins, and you're gonna get whatever you want to get directly to your address. They have good liquidity, they have also low fees, and they're integrated with Trezor Suite. So if you're a user of the Trezor hardware wallet, then you must also be familiar with Sideshift, even though I think it's integrated in the background, so you don't have to think about what's really happening there when you're swapping coins. Anyway, Sideshift.ai. Also, Layer 2 Labs, which is the company that's building two-way pegged sidechains the way that they're supposed to be. They're called drive chains, and you can download the software today. It's not just a theoretical kind of upgrade for Bitcoin. It's actually a practical one. You can download the software and run it on the Bitcoin signet. The URL is layer2labs.com/download. Layer 2 is LAYERTWOLABS.com. And you're gonna find a sidechain for Ethereum, a sidechain for Zcash, a sidechain for a big block version of Bitcoin, and a lot of interesting stuff with which you can experiment and see if you want the future of Bitcoin to look like that. So check out Layer 2 Labs. I think they're building really cool stuff. I still have 1 minute 30 seconds until this downloads, so I'm gonna present the rest of the ads in this segment. Nuance.com is a peer-to-peer marketplace that aims to onboard the global south onto Bitcoin. The CEO, Ray Youssef, is mostly known for his previous venture, which was Paxful, which unfortunately, due to being in the US, did not become very successful in its mission, but now Nuance is peer-to-peer. They focus solely on the global south, and they have this model that's called everyone gets a seat at the table and everyone eats, which means that basically there's a fee involved for every trader who's joining the platform and can hustle to make some money. And if you're providing liquidity to Nuance, you're helping people from Nigeria, from the Middle East, from South America to have access to these coins and be able to support their families with their trading activities. So check out noones.com. And last but not least, news.bitcoin.com, which is the news website that I really like lately because they have a very balanced approach to news. They're no longer the website that was telling you that BTC is slow and expensive and you should use BCH. Their logo right now is actually orange. It used to be green. And I like that they're not as political as Bitcoin Magazine and also not as institutional oriented as CoinDesk. They find a pretty good middle ground, and I like their coverage. So check out news.bitcoin.com. And now that I do have the app and it's downloaded, I can actually open it up. And I get this welcome screen that says, take control. Let's get started. I don't want to help you guys anonymously, like no offense, but I care about my privacy, so I always switch this off. It tells you that your data is private and what you collect is data on app performance, user interaction, and potential technical issues. And I just checked this to be sure that I'm not giving you any data. I can enable biometrics to unlock my wallet, which I never do. I prefer numbers as opposed to my face or my fingerprint. Connect to your Trezor. It says it needs permission from me to access the Bluetooth. Now it's scanning to find for nearby devices to pair with this bad boy. And now I hit connect here, and I think this is it. And I have to say this was very smooth. I have a pairing code to match the devices, which I have to type on the phone. And I don't know what's happening with the phone. It's pretty slow. Anyway, I do have to mention that I said there were 4 layers of protection for anti-tampering, physical, whatever. But there are actually 5. There is one more sticker here that I have to remove from the USB-C port. So it's good to remember. 5 layers.
And maybe just to comment on these layers, not all of them are originally meant or like per se meant as a anti-tampering. I would say the 2 of those, the layer and the like this kind of transparent, beautiful layer, also gives you sort of the anticipation feeling, right? Because you kind of see there's something behind. So yeah, go ahead, Claude. Sorry, if you want to comment on
the 2 are connected. I was actually lazy and I did not read the message from Apple that had basically the text or the numbers that I was supposed to check from the Trezor screen. They were part of the long message which they sent me. So that was correct.
But by the way, I gave the very same feedback like when we were testing it out, but unfortunately you cannot really change the system dialog from because it's the one that comes from the operating system. So yeah, no worries. We know that users don't read, me neither. So yeah.
Yeah, I did not read because I'm in the middle of a live stream and I have a lot of stuff going on. If I was all alone and this was the only thing I was doing, I would be more careful. Now it says that I have to confirm if I bought the device from a Trezor official store. And I think this is important. You have yes and I'm not sure. And as far as I know, I did not buy it. I got it from your event. But I'm just gonna say that it's from an official source. The holographic seal was complete and undamaged when I unboxed my device. And that's true. I did have all the elements, which I removed on camera. And packaging, the package was factory sealed and intact with no signs of tampering before unboxing. And you also hit yes. And then you get to the next screen, which is firmware installation. And I was right about this one. It's the same as it was with previous versions of the Trezor. It says it will take some time to complete. Don't leave or close the app during installation. While the firmware is installing, leave your phone as is. It will not turn off. I have, I guess, also to turn on the screen here. So the device comes without firmware on it. It just has like the basic functions to tell you to connect to your phone or to your computer. And then you have to install the firmware from the Trezor Suite app. Now it's installing. And something which I found surprising, and this is going to be my question while this is installing, and this is actually faster than I expected. You guys have 2 secure elements in this one. It's not just the Tropic Square one, it's also the other one that you used in the Safe 3 and Safe 5 hardware wallets. And I was thinking that you're going to use a setup maybe like Trezor Model T, but with the Tropic Square secure element, which means microcontroller plus secure element, but you went for 2 secure elements. And why is that? And what is the advantage to doing this?
Yeah, I mean, there's been quite some discussion on the topic, to be honest, and I think we went back and forth. I was also slightly worried, if it's not diminishing the value of Tropic Square, because that would definitely not be our aim. We definitely, do trust Tropic 01, which is the secure element that is there, and I honestly believe that it would probably be enough. But the thing is that the way our architecture is composed, it's like adding another secure element, like adding the Optiga trust stamp that is in Safe 3 and Safe 5. It actually cannot decrease the security. It can only increase it, right? So of course the question is whether it increases by 20%, 50%, 1%, whatever.
Secure connection, and this was part of your presentation 2 weeks ago, where you said that the connection, the Bluetooth connection between the device and the phone is encrypted.
Yes, there's actually another pairing inside of the Bluetooth channel, which is our own Trezor host protocol, which is basically another layer of encryption inside the channel. It's end-to-end encrypted, of course, open source. So if anyone is interested, they can check out GitHub. It's using the noise protocol for those more into cryptography, and it's basically another layer of protection inside Bluetooth. So in the rare case that Bluetooth itself would be compromised, we'll still, have our own channel inside that, meaning that you are in control which devices and which applications can connect to your Trezor, and also that everything is encrypted and authenticated.
Now it asks me if I want to allow the Trezor to connect to my iPhone, and I have to hit confirm. What I like about hitting confirm is that you get this small vibration that you feel in the device. I guess you call it haptic feedback, so that you actually know that you press the button, which is nice for touch screens. I also have like a one-time code that I have to enter on my iPhone to confirm the pairing. And I guess before we had some technical issue, I was asking you about this dual chip setup. Would you describe it as better than just having a microcontroller as opposed to, I don't recall the branding of the secure element that you have in Safe 3 and 5?
So in Safe 3 and Safe 5, we have an MCU, the microcontroller. In Safe 5, we have the STM32U5. And next to it, we have the Infineon's Optiga Trust M as the secure element. And in the Safe 7, we're using the microcontroller as well, meaning STM32U5 along with two secure elements, where one is the Trust M that you have in Safe 3 and Safe 5, and one is the Tropic Square, which is the new auditable secure element from our sister company.
Now it's interesting that it's asking me if I want to allow the connected app to check the authenticity of the Trezor Suite 7. So the checks that you made to say that, well, is this something that you bought directly from the shop? Was the box intact? Were the stickers, the holographic stickers on the device? They were just something to make you feel good about it, but there's an actual check that's happening right now after you establish the connection.
Exactly. This is actually the two secure elements now working, and that's how you prove that the device comes from us. That's like the main genuinity check, because there's cryptography involved. But of course, all the other ones on the box, again, like these are layers and they contribute, but this is probably the most important one.
Now it says that my Trezor is genuine, which I never actually questioned. But I think on your behalf, this is the most advanced checking system that you've had so far.
Yes. And by the way, there's also like one thing about the quantum readiness that we talked about. We also have a certificate inside the device, that has the post-quantum signature. This is not yet being used in Suite, so you haven't yet run through that. That's what we want to come, introduce in the following months. But the important thing is that it's ready for that, right? So we can implement it basically anytime when the quantum computers are a threat. But again, it's actually not just one, but two, because we have two secure elements, and then actually another one, the quantum certificate. So it's actually 3 ways how to prove that your Trezor is genuine.
Now I'm walking through this tutorial where it explains to me that I should tap and I can use the power button on the side to turn the device on and off. And I can find more options in the menu. Use the menu to continue. And I also have like an FAQ. What is the Tropic 01, which is the secure element chip developed by Satoshi Labs via Tropic Square, which is the sibling company that was established in 2020. Maybe Matej can tell us more about Tropic Square.
Absolutely. So let me start with, what kind of name is that? What a weird name. Well, it's an abbreviation for a truly open IC, integrated circuit. So yeah, that's the name where it comes from. And the story behind this company is such that we actually wanted to use a secure element already like 5 years ago when we were actually starting the development of new hardware, which at the time was Trezor Safe 3. And we wanted to include some kind of secure element. So we picked one that was used by our competitors, actually.
Is that the
And
8x608?
is it what? Sorry.
8x608.
Sushi
Yeah,
will know. I don't know if we can say though.
we don't comment on that for legal
So
reasons.
it may or may
Um,
not be 8x608.
Yeah, let's leave it there.
Yeah, so yeah, we chose some secure element with a company that needed for us to sign an NDA. Well, we were not very happy about it, but we signed it to get the documentation and to be able to start working on implementing it into the device architecture. Well, and very soon after we started, we actually found a vulnerability how to extract the secret from the secure element, right? So not even in some super hardcore specialized lab equipment, but just with a basically piece of software, let's say a piece of like a cryptography trick. And we were like, okay, that's not great. So let's talk to the manufacturer, and let's definitely do like a responsible disclosure to the competitors, to the companies that are using these secure elements. Well, the manufacturer said, no, you are not going to do that. You signed the NDA and we will sue the shit out of you if you do, because that's the point of NDA, that you really are not allowed to talk to anybody, which I don't have to probably explain is so against the whole transparency and open source ethos of security, right? In Bitcoin and cryptography and the whole industry that we are at. So that was pretty shitty. We were not able to do anything about this, and we basically said, well, then secure elements are not really in this way are not the way for us to go. And that's where the idea for trying to change this industry started. So the original founders of Trezor, Slash and Stick, founded a new company. And even though they were told it's impossible because, yeah, you have so much proprietary stuff in the whole industry and it's like layered in NDAs all over the place, they still did it. And yeah, they succeeded to delivering the first ever auditable secure element to the market. And obviously, we are super happy that we were able to put it in our product.
Right, so I do have to ask, why is it that the language that you choose for describing the Tropic Square 1 chip, which I think the first application for it is in this device, the Trezor Safe 7, why do you describe the chip as auditable and transparent, but not open source? Verifiable, I think, is the other word that you use, but you don't say specifically open source.
Yeah, so I mean, like again, it's a tough topic, right? But it basically has two reasons. First of all, it depends on what do you mean by open source, and there are parts, unfortunately, in Tropic 01 that are not fully open source because the company would need way more dollars and money to actually make it fully. So in a short, you can say that the digital stuff is open source and you can find it on GitHub. Just if you go to GitHub Tropic Square, they have a bunch of repositories. You can just do it. While we speak, there's also the RTL design available on GitHub. Then there are some analog parts which are not open source just yet, just purely because of the reasons that the company would have to have 100 times more money to actually achieve that. So unfortunately you need to level out some feasibility and then the real thing, right? So Tropic 01 is pushing the open source berry way further, but there are still, I don't know, 10% or 20% left to do, which we hope in the following years we would make it. So That's why we prefer the word transparent and auditable. So that's one part. And the second part is that, the open sourceness is not the whole story. The very important part of it is also that you can obtain the chip without those NDAs, right? So if you would like to test out a secure element, you would need to sign papers, and it's like a legal process. But here you can really just contact Tropic Square, you can just get a few chips from them, and you can do whatever with them that you decide to, right? So this is also a big shift from in the industry, how they are approaching their customers, because they want to be way more open to them, and they are just like, hey, there you go, there you have the chips, you can have a look and do whatever with them that you decide. So that's basically those two reasons that we also wanted to encapsulate the idea of the attitude towards the customers, that they can really just do whatever they want with these chips.
So let me say something that you cannot. At this point, I'm not saying that you guys were trying the ATX608. All I'm saying is that Cold Card and Foundation Devices Passport and Bitbox, and I think a few more, are using the ATX608 right now. This is the chip on which they are relying for their security. And the question that I have for you is, what would you say to these companies which do compete for market share with your devices? What would you say to them to get them to adopt the Tropic Square chips? What are the advantages?
I mean, really the main advantage, so number one, better security. Of course, they need to verify that for themselves, like they probably don't trust us on that. And B, it's the approach, because it's exactly that. If I'm not mistaken, these companies that do use the attack, they had to sign an NDA, and they are not allowed to talk about any vulnerabilities or issues with the chip. So if they will get a Tropic, they can talk about anything, and we can improve, the hardware industry altogether. So that's the main advantage.
If, let's say, Bitbox uses the Tropic Square chip and launches a new device, why should people still buy the Trezor?
So we compete at all kind of features and products. By the way, let me take 2 steps back, because I don't really believe in killing each other on a niche market and being super aggressive in communication towards each other. And I'm not saying
You're not, but I am.
and that's kind of the point. Or my next point is, we compete on a free market. We want to bring a better product, better features, better experiences, solid hardware that feels like a super high-end electronics. All those kind of are competitive, that's features that we compete with, and that's great for the end consumer, right? Because since we compete, we need to check our prices, and we innovate more because you want to be the better than the other guys, which is all good. But I don't believe in harsh comms or shitting on each other. That's not exactly like the way I think we should go. A little poking is probably fine, but in the end, like, some harsh comms is probably hurting our little niche hardware wallet self-custody market, right? So those are just maybe some principles how I think specifically or personally about this. But yeah, so to answer the question, we have amazing software as well. You can connect to all kind of third-party apps. We have services that you can use, not just for Bitcoin, but also all the altcoiner people. And yeah, that's how we compete, right? You basically deliver better product.
I just want to point out that when you showed your Safe 7, you basically flexed that you have the orange one, which I think is the rarest right now.
It is.
I have the charcoal black or something.
So what I'm holding here is actually the Bitcoin only version. Since the launch, I'm keeping it in my pocket all the time, just to maybe be clear. There's no money on this yet, but I just use it as almost like a token for good luck. I kept it in my pocket for the keynote presentation because I was so scared. It was like a huge responsibility. But anyway, we created a Bitcoin only version. And so this is the variant that I'm holding here. And actually you can pre-order those as well. And we will start shipping soon, actually.
I completed the tutorial also, so I have to hold my finger on the screen, and there's this bar that fills very beautifully and also gives you haptic feedback, and now it says you're all set to start using your device. Of course, there were breaks involved, but I think the setup roughly takes 10 minutes or less. I'm not sure how that compares to your competition, but this was actually nice. Like, it doesn't feel like work, it's fun. It pairs to your phone, and now I have to get started with setting up a new wallet. And I'm curious if part of the user experience is that first you have to write down your 12 seed phrase words, or you can actually do it some other way.
Yeah, so that is the experience. We, by the way, still have sort of ongoing conversation in the company whether to allow you to skip the backup or not. If I'm not mistaken, right now we have to do it, but eventually we will add an option that we can skip the backup to creating the backup of the wallet. So you can kind of look around, see how it feels, and then you can always make it later in case you were, for example, setting up the hardware device on the go. So that's one point. You mentioned 12 words. We actually, the new default is 20 words, which runs on the slip 39. And the reason is that you can eventually then add sort of more shares because that's a multi-share backup, meaning you can create multiple shares of the backup. And then if you lose one, for example, 2 out of 3, you need only to be able to recover the wallet. You can still choose the other format, the 12 words, but the 20 is the recommended, because it will eventually give you more potentially more security if you, for example, keep stashing more, and you can distribute the risk. You can do it without the need of creating new wallet and sending this funds somewhere else. So that's the idea there. And as for the time, I also wanted to mention, I actually believe just the time itself is not a great metric to see, whether it's fast or not. I would argue, though it is definitely like a metric that, you don't want it to take for an hour, right? Like you definitely should be around, the time you mentioned, maybe like 10 minutes max, for sure. But I would say the main metric is whether you as a user understand what happened and what the device is for, what's the purpose, right? So, and that there is, for example, the encrypted protections and stuff like that, which we actually spent a lot of time on, like really be able to explain to you, and etc. So maybe, Vlad, we were not looking maybe at the phone all the time, but actually the onboarding gives you like step-by-step explanation why you are doing this step, why it's important, etc.
Yeah, and for the record, now it actually lets me choose between a single share backup, which means one share of 20 words, or a multi-share backup, which has 2 to 16 shares of 20 words each. So yeah, this is the slip 39 design, which describes Shamir secret sharing. But I also want to ask you if you're still using BIP44, which is something that is useful for having the same seed for all the assets in your wallet. Let's say that you have Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin and Bitcoin testnet and something else.
Yes,
it's still the same thing as in Safe 3, Safe 5, and all the previous models. So yeah, nothing really changes about that. It's just the underlying BIP 39 is replaced with slip 39.
Okay, is there anything else that's different after this point compared to the experience that users had in Safe 3 and 5, or Model T or Model 1?
Well, let me turn the question around. What do you think about the device now once you first tried it? How does it feel differently for you than 3 and 5?
Well, to be honest, it's not the first time I try it, because there was a demo unit that I kept stress testing when I was at your event, and I tried all sorts of crazy stuff. What I like is how you get haptic feedback every time you touch your screen, And also the fact that you still use that scrambled numbers model for typing your PIN. I think that's so cool. Even if it's confusing at first, you're like, why are the numbers like this?
What happened? Yeah.
But you don't actually leave any fingerprint patterns on your screen. And I think, yeah, I think that's very useful. So this was not the first time when I tried the device, but it was the first time when I took one out of the box. I kept this one in the box specifically for this interview because I wanted to see your reactions. I wanted to see if there's anything that goes wrong. Because the average user, this is the kind of experience that you're going to have, right? You get the device off the shelf in the condition that it gets delivered to you, and then you have to go through these checks on your own. You don't have the CEO and the CTO of the company to walk you through and tell you what's happening and what happens if something goes wrong. And also I have to mention that this is like an early prototype. It's not, as far as I know, you guys are not shipping the device yet.
We are not shipping yet, but we are actually going to start soon, probably, maybe even sooner than we originally planned. No promises there, but that's what we are trying to do. And so what you now hold in your hand, it's actually a perfectly fine device that is like a production quality that others will start receiving soon, the ones that order it already.
Yeah, but what I mean is that, yeah, okay, I'm one of the first 200 people to have this. But if there's any feedback that comes from the early adopters who receive this, you can actually still fix it before you start shipping to the customers who buy it.
Oh, true. Actually, there's I can tell a little behind the scenes story. Because yeah, we organized this event, we invited all these important people and the influencers and the media, etc. And of course, we want them to have, amazing experiences, right? Because obviously, like when how it is, you first start using some product and you kind of make the opinion straight away, and then it's hard to change the opinion, right? That's fair. That's how it should be. So we really wanted to make sure the experiences will be nice, even for this, yeah, as you say, early adopters. And I can actually, I have to thank a lot to our software teams that worked incredibly hard at the last couple of weeks to really make sure it works nicely. Because as you know, like it's a software development, right? There is always bugs and there's always issues, etc. And managing the Bluetooth, especially across not just mobile devices, but also desktop, which by the way is something that the competitors don't do, or not all of them, then it is actually quite cool that it works. And yeah, and but as you say, this early feedback, if you were to tell us today something, if it didn't work, which I'm really glad it did for this demo, you could tell us, and you're right that we are still obviously working on this, and our roadmaps are busy with improving even this early experience that already is pretty nice.
Yeah, so I know you guys have to go in like a couple of minutes, but we have 3 questions from the audience, which I think are very important. So I'm gonna shoot them very fast. Bejo wants to know how can we order in this SEA area, and I guess SEA is Southeast Asia.
So we do, I don't know exactly which country are we talking about, but there's a couple ways. Basically, we have a bunch of resellers, actually a lot of resellers that we recommend to order from. So let's start with Trezor.io. That's our website. You can try to order from there. If for whatever reason it would not work, which it should really, because we have global like fulfillment centers around the world. Then you can always check like a local resellers, but please, in these cases, always check that they are trusted. They were vetted by us. It's quite important because, we talked about all these counterfeits and the measures that we are doing not to be able for anybody to make the counterfeits, but still, please make sure it's from a trusted reseller, and Trezor.io is the place to start.
There's another question from Thomas Burnes, and he says, greetings from Czech Republic. I'm a proud holder of the Trezor Safe 7. When using the mobile app, will we have advanced options like coin control? And if so, when will this feature be available?
I'm not sure whether we already implemented it in mobile. Do you know, Sushi? Because I know for sure it's on desktop for a while.
Yeah, it's desktop for a while, and it is, the parity between the desktop and the mobile app is not yet completely done. It is something that we are planning on to finish soon. So yeah, just give us a few months, and it's something that we really want to bring the mobile app as close to the desktop one as possible, basically 100%.
You also have a question from someone from the Zcash community, and they want to know when you're going to add shielded Zcash.
Yeah, so I actually remember we were actually so there was some discussion years back about bringing Zcash shielded transaction into Trezor. The issue there back in the time was space, that we simply didn't have enough space in the firmware. But I do remember that there have been some improvements on the Zcash side.
I don't know exactly what happened. This new version of OBS is playing tricks on me, but half of your answer was probably not heard because for some reason the fader with your volume stopped working. But
Sure.
you said you would implement this in a few months or something as a short answer.
About the coin control, yes, I believe that should come.
No, that answer went through. It's just
Okay, sorry.
the last question.
I don't have any ETA on that because honestly, we have a backlog of coins that we want to add. We would have to dig deeper again into the cryptography there because it is something that we'd have to support. So I cannot really give any specific answer to that, but it is on the list and hopefully at some point.
Also, something important that we did not mention, this is $250, I think. And you can pre-order right now on Trezor.io. You can also use my ref link in the description if you want to support my show and whatever. I think I get like 15% from this. And is there anything else that you would like to say about the Safe 7 before we wrap this up?
We are super proud of it. I would say that's the emotion I have. We obviously put so much work into this. We quite frankly were a bit behind on the wireless connectivity, so I'm quite happy that we that we delivered. The event was success for sure. Very glad that also I think our people really enjoyed it. It was a proud moment for not me, just like everybody in the company, I think. And yeah, our roadmaps are busy, and we actually planning pretty cool features for Trezor Safe 7 in near future as well. So stay tuned, as you would say in any podcast.
Thank you very much for doing this and finally delivering the device that we've been waiting for such a long time. And I actually look forward to other people giving feedback on this, to hackers trying to break this, and all sorts of interesting information that come after a product actually gets in the hands of consumers. Thank you very much. Once again, Matej Zak, CEO of Trezor, and Tomáš, I don't want to mess this up. Let me.
No worries.
Sušánka.
Yeah, no, you did a great job. Thanks a lot for having us, and I'm glad that your TS7 worked nicely, and I hope it will serve you well.
Yeah.
Against all odds of live demos, it went really well, so I'm really glad as well. Thanks a lot for having us.
I put you on the spot for this. I did not tell you on purpose what this was going to be about. And yeah, thank you very much and best of luck.
Thank you very much. You too.
Have a nice day.